All right. Like I said earlier, we'll be continuing with our last discussion on expert system. Today we'll be looking at a lecture note from Dr. Roman V. Ilavikin from Middlesex University. So let's look at what they have on expert system. Here we'll look into the definitions of expert system or ES, the origin of expert system, intelligence and expertise, knowledge representation, early symbolic system, knowledge-based system, knowledge engineering, area of applications, and advantages and limitations of expert system. All right. So one may ask, what is expert system? Remember, in our last discussion, we tried to differentiate expert system from artificial intelligence. From artificial intelligence. When we talk about expert system, we are referring to a program that can replicate knowledge and skills of human experts in some certain areas, and then use that skills to solve problems in these areas, just like the way human expert would. When we talk about expert system, you are looking for a way how can you make a computer system a domiciliary of knowledge that would act as human professionals. You just create a computer program or a software that when somebody is using it, it will be a data-driven skills or event or knowledge through which it will be able to solve certain problems. Not only creating a program, but that program should be tailored solving a specific problem based on human professional deployment to solve human needs. Take, for instance, cognitive science, which serve as the study of human mind using combination of artificial intelligence and psychology. That is cognitive science or science. When you move down, you look at the application of AI in our contemporary society to solve problems related to medicine, chemistry, even the space, so that the planet, space shuttles, finance, and the rest of them. So this is where we could see expert system being utilized. Take, for instance, in the area of medicine, what happens there? Sometimes maybe you are ill and you may not have money to visit lab or to conduct lab tests. What do you do? If you have a system that an expert system or a software of medical related domain, all you simply do is type, check some of the sicknesses that have been represented in the computer system. Then you look at the signs and symptoms based on the way you are feeling. You'll be able to put yourself in a position that this is certain feelings you are having. These are some of the signs and symptoms classified by different diseases. From there, you'll be able to say, okay, I am feeling like this, I am feeling like this. You begin to suspect this could be malaria. If it's malaria, then check what is the sign and symptoms of malaria. Then if the sign and symptoms synchronize with your feelings, then you now proceed by saying, what are the solutions designed to relieve malaria or body pain? Then, by the time you click on some suggestive methods, you'll be able to see different approaches, different medical approaches to cure headache or malaria. The system will be driven in sequence until you be able to have a clear, maybe a kind of drugs or the approaches. If it's a drug, okay, then what is the type of drugs or a kind of drugs are you going to utilize? Okay, since it's the drugs, what of the dosage? How do you go to use it? The specifications based on physicians' prescriptions. You'll be able to do what? Take self-medication without even going to the hospital. But for this system to be utilized, it must have been approved by the medical experts. Yes, truly, it can solve this problem. Okay, so that is that in the area of medical domain. Then let's look at maybe in engineering aspect or maybe in finance. Sometimes most of the systems that financial agency utilize, for instance, in the bank, what they call self-help, where maybe if your account is hacked, how do you stop the fraudsters? When you click on it, it will appear like, in other words, called self-help. It is derived from what expert system, because it was the professionals, the cybersecurity experts, financial experts come together, then put up this knowledge and represent it through software, so that when you are there, you'll be able to solve your needs without their presence. That is why sometimes it's been misquoting. It will be difficult for you to differentiate between expert system and artificial intelligence. But that's why we're able to discuss the relationship between expert system and the artificial intelligence before we kickstart the real what the real expert system is. So in business, expert system allow many companies to save millions of dollars, millions of nairas, billions of nairas. Expert system can help to save it. There is one they normally called computer life test. All this is an application of expert system where a certain diagnosis has to be carried out in real time and then compile it and put it in the software. So you could be wondered why there's one day I took my sister to the hospital for what they call a computer life test. We went there. The system, you just lie down on that maybe the hospital medical equipment or bed. They connect the system. They use that system to text run it, and at the end, the system should be able to give you a kind of a medical history of that patient. But there's something I discovered there. Most of them don't really track the real problem of that patient. It will only give you a preliminary, especially when that software is not updated. So all these are practical applications of expert system. Then in our own area, computing environment, where and how can we experience applications of expert system? Remember that you use computer to program them. And it is the programmers, the experts, the professionals, just like all of you are in computer science, yet you have a domain or area of expertise or specialty. Some of you are majoring in artificial intelligence, some robotics, some IoT, some data science, some cybersecurity, etc. This to enable you have a focus. By the time as a cybersecurity expert or professional, when you want to talk about the security of the data, people will be looking at you as if you are the gods that create it. The same way, some of you who are probably in artificial data science, when you begin to analyze data and their correlations, people like this person is good in this area. Just like that. Just like the same like those who are in the medical field, who are in engineering, who are in psychology or philosophy, theology, and the rest of them. When the Reverend Father wants to talk, you think that he's the one that owns the Bible. Or when a pastor wants to speak, or when they want to preach, you think that they have a special, they are going to discuss with God before coming in. No, it's not the way you train yourself, the way you will be able to read, prepare yourself, and just like what we are doing now. When you begin to talk on your own area, people think you are a demigod in that area. This is what expert system helps us to do what? Achieve. Be known in your own area. Be expertise in your own area. If you're a medical doctor, if you are an engineer, if you're a computer scientist, you should be able to do what? To stand firm and explore all the intricacies, all the intricacies behind that domain you have chosen. This is what expert system is letting us to know how to go about them. One, somebody may say, how does it save millions? If you may ask, how does expert system save millions in a company? Discuss. These are some of the questions you may like, in case if you ask, what will you say? Because why you have a system that will be able to solve some certain problems with or without human interventions, of course, it should be able to save some costs. If you go to hospital, what they call GOPD, medical outpatient department, many customers are lined up, or many patients are lined up to see doctors in different illness. These things can be solved with some softwares, except otherwise proven before you can go and see medical personnel. The same way, I think I was the one on one platform tried to lay a complaint. Yes, that is Google. A friend of mine, her Google account, Gmail account was suspended or restricted, and we have to write a report for them to remove the restrictions. Then there's something like self-help. You will be asked to look at related issues. What issues are you having? With that self-help driven, you'll be able to solve that problem even without creating an account or creating a complaint. Except when all these laid down instructions or tips could not be able to address your needs, then you cannot go ahead to create a complaint. That is one of the applications, because doing that, if you're able to solve the problem without creating a complaint, it will help the company to save cost, because some of the personnel that may be designated to solve that problem may not be there again, but the system have been able to solve it. It will cut down costs. Okay, let's briefly look at the historical background of ES. You can, from the history here, you'll be able to see that expert system started as early as 1943. As far as early as 1943, when post-EL proved that any computable problem can be solved using a set of if-then rules. If-then rules. If this is this, then this will happen. If all students attend the class, then they will pass, or they have a chance of passing the course. But if students fail to attend the class, then such student has a high priority to fail the exam. Use if statement to solve it. If going to school may cost you more, then resort to attend the class online. Or if on-site participation or attendance or lecture would cost more time, energy, and resources, then resort to what? Online lectures. So you can use it to program so many things. Traffic you see today, I use all these rules, if-then statement. So this is when expert system, a man called post-EL, were able to come up with a postulation that computable problem can be solved using a set of if-then rules. And such proof or proposal has launched into a space for, or into a research field for all the academicians to begin to debate about it. This takes us from 1943 down to 1970s, where mycin is a software medical diagnosis system introduced with the use of sanctity factors. If you type mycin, you see that it will be like you are speaking with someone or a doctor. A lot of knowledge have been represented in mycin domain. That leads to even to the 1982, according to aka Exxon. What did he see there? He said this was the first commercial expert system as at 1986 to save almost $40 million almost. So when people begin to utilize those knowledge, represent those knowledge, sorry for the interruption. It's network that surely cut off the discussion. Can you people still hear me? Can you people still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Network method. All right, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Okay, so this is how the expert system began. Now, going further, computers versus minds. Let's face it, unlike computers, humans are generally not very good in dealing with numbers and precise computations. The same way in human symbol and languages solve some problems, and they cannot do it creatively and in many different ways. So what I try to say here is that computer can do things faster, compute or program faster than humans mind. But humans mind think out it from the faculty of the mind and come up with a concept, but uses computer to execute it better than he can do it manually. Take for instance, symbol and sub-symbol representations. Here, maybe if you use a discrete unit, like you have language like words, sentence, and you have maybe say plane, train, car. No, these three things are not the same. Car, train, plane. But three of them related to a means of transportation. So some symbolic representations are not single symbols, but information properties. For instance, probability distribution, weight in neural network, just like representing them in numbers. Then we talk about hybrid, involving both what? Both the knowledge representations. Both the system involves both types of knowledge representations. All of them must what? Match together in the hybrid form. Human experts. If you look at human expert, we are discussing about the specialty of every being. As I explained earlier, we have doctors, we have chess grandmasters, we have sports analysts, we have system analysts, we have chef, all political analysts. All of them are all well specialized personnel that can be engaged to solve specific problems, and each of them have one intelligence over another. If I am information analyst and somebody is political analyst, and that person is turn this thing down. So So once you are good, as a doctor, you must have knowledge about patients more than somebody who is a chef. So that you're a doctor doesn't mean that you can, if somebody is a chef, a good chef, as a doctor, you cannot defeat such person in that area. So this is what it means. What are we trying to say is that, can you say that one is more intelligent than another? No, each of them are intelligent in their own way. So then we want to look at intelligence versus expertise. Intelligence and expertise are not the same thing, although both of them intertwine. They relate to each other. Somebody is intelligence, somebody is expertise. Well, as we move on, let's look at their distinct meaning to distinguish between intelligence and expertise. Expertise requires long time to learn. Example, it takes 6 years to become a doctor. Expertise is a large amount of knowledge in some domain. Is easily recalled. Knowledge allows you to use your expertise, apply the knowledge. Expertise enables you to find solutions much faster. Just like somebody may be intelligent, but he may not apply it to solve a specific problem or easier. Take for instance, somebody that is a farmer, that person can farm very well. He knows how to combine different apparatus together. But somebody decided to go and learn it theoretically and practically and combine both. You see, that person is now an expertise. Is now an expert. But with intelligence, if you're intelligent, combine or intelligence meet expertise. That is what in other words they call it. The person is guru in that area. Because whenever there's maybe some technicalities, expertise based on experience, because expertise has to do with experience, we enable you to do what? Provide solution to such problem easier than someone who just have an intelligence. Maybe in security domain, it says somebody have an intelligence on how this crime is committed. But somebody who is expert knows how to play around with those intelligence. So, having noted this, we now relate what data, information, and knowledge. Of course, we say that data is the raw part of figures, numbers, sound, images, and data. Information is when you analyze those data to give you some a relative relevant meaning. We now say such is an information. Okay. Now, knowledge. Information put into specific context. Example, distribution of oil prices, a map of London, a destination where you are going, a location of Veritas University. You are in PG programs, specifically studying computer science with artificial intelligence or data science options. These are knowledge. So when you let them together, you see their difference. Then let's look at levels of what? Abstractions, where you compare the quality, talk about the abstractions. We look at, is it high, is it what, is it low? We have knowledge, we have information, we have data. So in all of this, knowledge play more significant roles compared to information and data. That's why I say data, information and knowledge can be classified by level of abstraction and quantity. Knowledge is the most abstracted and exists in small less quantity. That means in above all, in the pyramid context, knowledge is preferable. All right. How are they produced? How would it be implemented? How are they deployed? How are they put into use? There is production system. Production system. Okay, now we look at under production system, we are looking at the rule-based system. You know, sometimes people misquote or attribute fuzzy rules or fuzzy systems with expert systems. But with the cause of this, we'll be able to see the role of where fuzzy system or rule-based system come into place in expert system. So what is production system? Or in other words, called rule-based system. Here we are seeing it as a program that instead of conventional algorithms, instead of traditional algorithms, use set of if-then rules, or what we call production rules. What we are seeing here is that is either you refer, instead of you referring if-then rules, simply say production rules. But what people usually know or are acquainted with is if-then rules. But anytime you say production rules, then it's all referring to the same thing. All right. So, unlike other algorithms, which uses rules-based, but it is decided by the program itself with respect to a program, with respect to a problem state. Take for instance, as earlier as 1943, when expert system was proven that any computable program can be implemented or solved in the production system. At the same time, cognitive scientists became interested in production system. Have you seen it? Somebody proposed these rules, which in other words can serve as research gaps. Somebody made a research and came up with these production rules. Because of that, it was so interesting. Different fields are now beginning to embrace it, just like in our field now. We came up in the computing background. We came up with artificial intelligence. We came up with robotics, how it can solve problems in a different field of study. Call it legal field, medical field, engineering field, and the rest of them. And that is why we can collab with other disciplines. Last time we were discussing with the Provost College of Medicine, how can we, bring hybrid of knowledge to use software to solve problems in the medical personnel. You see where all these things, some of them became interested for what we are doing in the field of computing. How artificial intelligence, how robotics are playing a great impact in different domains. So with this, it's just like even you now, very soon you start your research work. You can begin to look at where do you draw your gaps in knowledge. Are you going to propose a new system like they did in 1943 by proposing a new model called production system or production rules? Or are you going to enhance the production rules? Or are you going to come up with a new method entirely that will counter a production rules? It depends on where you want to draw your gap. And you should be able to convince us, yes, this is what you are doing. Okay. You understand? So you should be able to do that. Then with this intention, then cognitive scientists became what? Interested. Because they seem to represent better the way humans think and solve problems. Oh my goodness. They looked at it. Yes, this person came up with a concept. They post EL. This work might be his or her thesis research work. It may be his or her dissertation research work. It may be a class assignment or a lab findings that earn him or her this credit. So you can become one. As we have 1982, you can develop your own, and especially the modern expert system. From the assignment that have been given to you, you can come up with a gap and thwart the existing system. That, okay, I've taken time to study the historical background of expert system from 1943 to 1982. What do I need to add? You can challenge them, you can criticize them, and come up with a new fact. It is allowed. That is what God research is a progressive order. All right. Well, let's take a look at production rules or production system. For example, if Saturday or Sunday, then go to cinema. If not, Saturday or Sunday, then go to work. Yes, if then had to do with yes or no. If you say yes, what happens? If you say no, then what happens? If Saturday and Sunday, if truly Saturday and Sunday, then go to cinema and enjoy yourself, enjoy your stay, have a leisure time, make friends, interact with people, and ease yourself. But if truly it's not Saturday and Sunday, oh boy, go to work. Oh. Going on, if go to cinema, then go outside. If go to work and not at work, then go outside. See quote. If not, can go outside, then stay at home. If not, then why going outside? It's better you stay at home. If you're not going to work, then it's better you stay at home. But if good weather, then can go outside. If weather is good, then no problem, we go outside. But if raining, then have an umbrella. Yes. If you check the weather is raining, then it's better you do what? Have an umbrella. And if raining and have an umbrella, then can go outside. If it's raining and you have an umbrella, then you can still go outside. Chicken eye. So it is good to know how this works, and that is what has have been launched or set in a good pace that up to now we still use it to, especially when programming, it helps to solve a lot of problems. Then earlier expert systems. According to Newell and Simon, in 1961, what did they put? They wrote a program called General Problem Solver, GPS. General Problem Solver, GPS, that could solve many different problems using only a small set of rules. Both of them, just like what we people are doing now, two of you can come up and write a simple program that could solve a man's needs using any of these rules. Not only that, General Problem Solver use a strategy known as means-end analysis. You see, where they are drawing their analysis, means-end analysis, which has to do with econometrics. Those in economics, they have to work with them. How does they work? Means and ends. Econometrics words or analysis, they have to use to solve this problem. That is why it's good you collaborate. You don't need to work alone. GPS produce solutions very similar to those people came up with. So with this, we are looking at different methods have been applied to a broad range of problems, which they call weak methods, because they use weak information about the problem domain. Their performance, however, is always usually weak. You see, more gaps are being identified from the general concept. Two of them came up and produced a general problem solver using means and end analysis. Another researcher came up, study it, and see there is a problem. That this problem, their application, there is a weak method. It cannot generally represent the problem entirety. Their performance is very weak. He looked at their performance as a knowledge gap. Let's move on. How do you represent them? Knowledge-based system. We talked about what? Production system. We discussed about earlier expert system as at those days during my father, my mother. I can remember 1961 during before when Nigeria got the independence. From there before the Biafran War. My mother always tell us or gist us what happens even before the Nigeria got independence, before the Biafran War. So most of them do not acquire formal education, but with the history, they were able to remark what happens. It's not like storytellers. Sometimes he will gather us and begin to tell us. She begin to tell us what happened before the Nigeria independence, before what they passed through during the Biafran War from 1963 down upward. So all these things, when you hear them, you begin to ask yourself, what is happening? This is where intelligence, memory, long memory comes up, recall memory. So when you gather all those information, the next question is, how do you want to represent them in the best way for people to read it, especially for the new generations, up generations to come. So now people now begin to look at it in a more advanced way, according to Dendra. Federer et al. In their work as at 1969, after about 8 to 9 years, he developed a program that uses rules to infer molecular structure from a spectral information. The challenge was that the number of possible molecules was so large that it was impossible to check all of them using simple rules. That was called weak method. You see the problem. He came up with a program to infer, deduce molecular structure, but there's a problem. So the researcher consulted an expert in chemistry because this person is a computing background, but when it has to do with the molecular structure, it is with chemistry. So he had to consult an expert in chemistry background. So the number of combinations the program had to test was reduced dramatically. So Dendra demonstrated the importance of domain-specific knowledge. That you are in computer science doesn't mean that you go to law and then begin to discuss about law issues without interfacing yourself with the legal personnel. To be very difficult. We as a software engineers or computing professionals, you can enter into any field and scale through and break through. Why? It is because it has been deduced that with the knowledge you have, you'll be able to represent. All you need to do, discuss with them, know how it works, you represent it in a computer form, and it will stand to solve their problems. Then, knowledge-based systems. You see how it's being represented. He produced this system, but it was having issues. He had to consult a chemistry expert. Okay? So now we move on to knowledge engineering. But before we move on to knowledge engineering, I believe we have discussed a lot of things. Do you have any questions or observations or comments or contributions before we progress?
So I have a question.
Okay, James, go ahead.
With the benefit of expert system to mankind cannot be overemphasized, but does it not also solve a problem and bring another problem of, for instance, unemployment? Because now in most organizations that uses this expert system, the numbers of staff they will need might not be that much, and thereby causing unemployment issue. So I'm looking at an expert system solving a problem and creating another problem in another way. So I don't know, is the system totally perfect without any negativity? That is the expert system on its own. And two, secondly, can expert system change to the prevailing situation or challenges? For instance, if a medical diagnosis, an expert system that do carry out medical diagnosis, if there is an outbreak of new diseases, can that expert system diagnose that new diseases? What will happen? Does it change, adjust itself, or we need to get another expert to change the knowledge base? You need human to change the knowledge base and
Are you still with us? Because I can't hear you again.
And then and every for it to now
Network. Okay. It's network. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. See what happens. Issue of job displacement or creating unemployment or relieving humans from their means of
livelihood.
The same question goes when artificial intelligence, robotics was deployed into use more of in a real life scenarios, real life issues. I want also to draw an analogy. When computer system was created, that inferiority complex, that bias, that fear gripped women's offices that with this system, people will be relieved from their work, especially the emergence of robots. I want to categorically state that expert system will not relieve people from their work. Rather, it will launch them into a space of acquiring more knowledge to improve on what is in existence, because we're in a very complex society where things changes day by day. Take for instance, you create a program that solve malaria, and when that malaria are being handled by expert system, maybe in few years there was an outbreak just like COVID-19. Before the COVID-19, there was another disease, what they call it. There was another disease that outbreak, especially in Nigeria. What was that disease?
Ebola.
Ebola, yes. You see, that expert system, I'm using one question to answer this question, whether if it can infer or predict a new outbreak of disease. It's covered that when the Ebola comes, expert system for malaria cannot solve for the one of Ebola. They have to create what? Another program that will solve issue of Ebola. But you cannot solve a problem without know the root of that problem. You know, when Ebola came up, people don't even, it was killing people, because they need to study, those in the medical field need to study the causes, the root cause of Ebola, until they were able to come up with a solution to it. Today, Ebola is no longer a threatening disease. HIV, when it came up, it was killing people. It was a dead, in fact, it has no solutions. But today, anybody that is suffering from HIV can live until the day God calls you, when you adhere to some of the medical tips that were designed for them. So expert system does not predict a new outcome of disease. That is why some of the limitations of expert system. Then that is when artificial intelligence comes in to complement expert system. This expert system is not like it will be. Remember that it has its own problems. You create a system to work like this, but when there is an issue, it may not change directions. Then artificial intelligence was created to address the shortfalls of expert system. You remember that around 1990s, you don't hear anything, you hardly hear about artificial intelligence. All we're hearing about expert system. You create a system, you create this, that, this, and that. That is where mycene and all that comes up. But today, with the emergence of rapid deployment of artificial intelligence, expert systems seem to be dead on arrival because artificial intelligence can predict. Artificial intelligence can do what? Predict, especially using some of its algorithms like machine learning, deep learning, and the rest of them. But expert system cannot predict, but it can solve some certain problems. It has its own limitations, which we will also see. And that is why it throws man into rapid research. Remember 1943, expert system was created. At that time, people think it will relieve them from their jobs. But you see where it even creates more jobs because people want to learn the weaknesses. People want to criticize it. People want to come up with more novel approach. So it becomes, instead of relieving people from jobs, it creates more jobs. From 1943, you see a lot of people have researched, made some research, and all of them, now, they have been credited. That is why when you use their work, you must credit them. Some of them have written textbooks, and these textbooks are being selling in all over the world. They are making money. They have made a lot of money. They make life, good life from that their knowledge. So with this few statement, you understand that experts are why you not relieve people from their job, rather than it will create more jobs. Secondly, it will help people to wake up from their weakness, wake up from sleep and be active to work. Where if you don't do anything, you remain. If you create a software to solve a malaria, and at a point people is no longer effective, maybe because of typhoid and the rest of them. If you don't get up to improve on that applications, it will bring you down. You will not be going, you won't earn anything. Somebody will not maybe come and maybe create an expert system for version 1 and you relax there. Then what happens? Somebody may come and create an expert system called version 2, and that version 2 can have more enhancing features. Your own version 1, if you don't improve, you'll be left behind. So it's only the lazy ones who will be relieved from their jobs. Then the smart ones will be, is an opportunity for them to try off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, any other concern, or do I proceed? All right. Moving on, we have knowledge engineering. We say that the process of designing an expert system is called knowledge engineering. What? The sequence, the step-by-step by which you design an expert system is called knowledge engineering. What are the steps or stages? In all, we have a total of 3 stages or 3 steps or 3 phases or phases through which you can develop an expert system. Number one, knowledge acquisition, which involves getting the right knowledge from the experts. You can get the right knowledge by asking them questions, observing them, reading some specific books, watching some specific movie or videos, and the rest of them. All these things, you are able to gather some information. Just like if I want to represent how my parents suffered during Biafra Nigeria war, what they passed through, the agony my parents passed through that period. I cannot do that because I was not born then, but my mother, my father, some of my elderly ones were born there, my uncles. I will go and begin to ask them questions. I remember my uncle there as at his 115 years from my maternal home. We do travel there to meet with him. All their great grandchildren, all of us will surrender him. We begin to tell us stories of what happened in their days. What am I doing? I'm gathering some useful information. And today, I may decide to write it as a textbook. I may decide to use a computer program to create it so that people will see what happens those days. Any of my family members, both nuclear and extended, that want to know what happens in their second generations of their father, third, fifth generations, past generations of their families background. That system should be able to represent, when they open it, they will see Mr. Nweke, Mr. Ikegu family. What happens in their lineage? Tracing the lineage. Sometimes we will go to church. They will tell you what you are suffering today is from what your father, your forefather committed. This, it now begin to appear like a prophecy. They begin to prophesy what, in fact, what happens or in your forefather's generation. Sometimes you go and call people to say they are men of God to come and pray for you. My dear, with all these are knowledge representation. If you have the same knowledge, if you ask questions, by the time when you begin to talk, the people think you are a prophet. That is what, as a PhD holder who knows your onions, you are a prophet. Philosophically, you are a prophet. Why? You ask questions, you criticize some information or result you get, you come up with an idea. With that, people would think that what this person is doing. That is why sometimes when you raise a voice, a knowledge, a concern, when you want to interact with some of the men of God, maybe you are a reverend father, or you are a reverend sister, or you are a pastor, you are cardinal, you are this and that. People begin to say, who dare you? Why they question the authority? My dear, there is nothing like authority there. It's all about the knowledge you have. So you can decide to represent those knowledge in a computer form, in a software form. Then this will serve as an addendum, a system, dedicated system, historical system that will be able to tell you what happened in the past. When you know what happened in the past, you'll be able to infer the future. And that is the human's mind, and that's the human representation, and that's the human feelings. It is the act of the human feelings was conceived to develop what we call expert system, to develop what we call artificial intelligence. We're talking about knowledge acquisition. Very, very important. Then the second step of it is knowledge representation. When you acquire those knowledge, when you interview them, you have to write the meaning, jotting some things down, minute it, draft some of the key points given to you, and you have to come up and then develop it. And developing it, you can start to use different, maybe pictures, create a vision of pictures, use a text, use a script, use objects. Anyhow, you want to present it for people to see. You have to do that as much as you can. Finally, you have to validate those knowledge. The system you created, does it work in conformity with what they tell you? Can you compare those, maybe what your Uncle A with what Uncle B and Uncle C? The information you gather from them, how do you marry them? Then, at the end, take what you were able to draft, go back to some of them, and then if does it actually conform with the story they tell you? If there's a way to make an amendment, you have to do. And this form the basic process or steps through which you can represent or compute an expert system. Then, main areas of applications. With the knowledge of, according to Waterman 1986, he came up with, please don't pick that call, it will interrupt my discussion. I'll turn the call later. Okay, now according to Waterman 1986, he derived so many application areas, including interpretations, predictions, diagnosis, design planning, monitoring, debugging and repair, instruction, and finally, control. These are dwell within man's effort in solving problems within our contemporary environment using expert system knowledge. All right. Finally, we'll look at the merit and demerits or advantages and limitations of expert system. One notable application or advantages of expert system is it increases productivity. You find solutions much faster than humans. We also make availability of experts. Human expert can be at one place at a time. Maybe you are a consultant in your field. You cannot duplicate yourself. If institution A needs your attention, if you are there, it cannot be institution B. You need to do it after the institution A, you now move to institution B to deliver your knowledge or services. So it's either you are here or you are there. But when you those knowledge you have, you represent it in the system. Even when you are there, it's there to solve problems. Okay? Then finally, it can be used in dangerous environment. Example, in space. A lot of things are happening in space. A lot of things are happening there. Even some of the flights that fly here and there, expert system, you'll be able to tell you when there's cloudy environment, or if expert system are also are not being integrated with intelligence. where it will not infer there's an obstacle on the way. Please change directions. So a lot of things are ongoing there. Then the limitations include difficulty in engineering, especially acquiring the expertise. Gathering the knowledge is not easy. First of all, you need to learn different programming applications. You need to know how to ask the kind of question to ask, how to present them, and the rest of them. It's not so easy. Mistrust by the users. Some people may mistrust you. Some of the users may not even, upon all the whole knowledge you put up, they will not still believe in you, what you are doing, even though when you are doing is right. And some may represent it in a very negative way to achieve their self-desire or motives. And finally, effective only in specific areas, area of expertise. It's only in an expertise way, professional manner. What of the beginners? What would they do? How would you, how would you then survive if it's only for the professionals? So for the beginners, it doesn't actually accommodate them. So these are some of the limitations of the expert system. So you see, we have discussed a lot of things that bothered about humanity, that bothered about environment, that are bothered about space and our contemporary society. So that is why assignment was given to you to see how what has been done and the new things that needed to be incorporated in expert system to make it more recent, to make it more viable. So we looked at expert system. We look at modern expert system. We look at artificial intelligence, the role of artificial intelligence in expert systems for easy to predict, for predictions. So, and it's very important that you carry out this research. All these works we are discussing, people took time to make research, and then either they report they represented their knowledge in journals, articles, or through textbooks, or through video, or through training. So there must be a way for you to compare your own training. Okay? Thank you. And if there is any further concern, then raise it. Before I will now lay more emphasis on the assignment. But this one, the lecture is this phase. The second phase is I want to lay more emphasis on the assignment given to you. So if there's any more questions or concern concerning the lecture, please feel free to ask. But if there is not anyone, then I can now proceed to lay more emphasis on the assignment. Thank you.